Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video for Honeybee Stamps. Today we are going to be talking about some really easy practice shading. I am using the Big Pickup Tailgate Stamps and Dies. I ended up with I think the Sassy Birthday Stamps and Dies. I'm also using the Big Pickup Americana add-on as well as the Loads of Love. So this one here, we actually colored in the live on Wednesday. So if you're interested in seeing real-time coloring of this technique, you can see that in the live. It's unedited and people ask some really good questions. Here, we're going to be doing another truck using the same technique, but one is going to be patriotic. That was the theme of the one from the live. And then one is just going to be kind of general birthday. I ended up doing rainbow colors just because I like rainbow colors, but you could obviously, coordinate them to whatever your theme was for your party or wedding. I think would look really cute because the Loads of Love has like the little... like how they used to tie cans to their car, but it's not cans. It's like little heart streamers. It's very cute. Anywho, so for the patriotic one, we did the banner swag that's already built, the balloons, the flag, and then the bow. For the rainbow one, I did the presents from Loads of Love. I stamped out the individual banners and kind of made my own, like the own swag, and then also the balloons. Again, I did color the bow, but I didn't end up using it. So let's talk about what we're doing here. In this live, we talked about, because I've used this particular stamp a ton. It is a little bit of an older stamp, but it's like the gift that keeps on giving. And I think the last time I used it, I actually turned the tailgate into a shaker for my son's birthday card, because he said that he wanted something that was going to be interactive, but the theme of his party was Ford. So that's how I ended up doing that. So I colored his truck blue, and then there was a scene card that I had done a while ago where I colored it red. So since we started coloring this in the live using the good old red, white, and blue, we went with like white or gray for the truck. So in this one, I colored it in this video the way that I color now, which is just go ahead and lay down my shadows with my darkest color and then work from my darkest color out to my lightest color. In the live, I colored a way that's a little bit more beginner friendly, and it's the way that I colored for years, meaning that I laid down my shadows with my lightest color first, and then I worked from my lightest color to my darkest color, and then my darkest back to my lightest. And there's no shame in that game. I colored like that for years. Now, I'm just a little bit more confident with where I'm putting my shadows, so I'm not as scared to start off with a darker color as I was before. But you'll still see even me when I am coloring an image that I've never colored before, or maybe I'm trying to do, a particular light source that is new to me, or it's a little bit more complex of an image that I'm coloring. I'll still default down back to that. I have absolutely no shame because it's just more comfortable for me. So with that said, this technique, which you've probably seen me use in videos tons of times before, is actually shading with your grays. So I chose cool grays because that's kind of just my preferred, but you could do this with cool grays, warm grays, neutral grays, toner grays, any of those, whether you have Copics, you have Olos, you have any of the other, what are they, Ahoohoos? I don't even know how to say it. But anyway, this will work with any sort of neutral gray color. Because what we're doing here is we're removing the additional thought process required for how we're going to make the colors blend and how the colors are going to work and the color combinations that we're going to do. We're literally just doing a study in shadows. So if we want something to be pushed to the back, we're going to make it darker. If we want it to be closer to us, we're going to make it brighter. So you can see as we're coloring like the back of the actual cab of the pickup truck, it has a lot darker shadows. The underneath like the undercarriage of the truck and the muffler is much darker because that's underneath and, forward. Whereas the tailgate and the bumper are much lighter because if we're standing behind a pickup truck, that is closer to us. One of the things that I did mention in the live that I wanted to make sure that I mentioned here, just in case you're like, girl, I don't have time to watch both of them. This is good for me. And I don't blame you. Is that you do want to make sure with this that your markers are filled, because you're not going to get good blending or good shading if you're working with a dry marker. And like right there is a perfect example. My marker was starting to dry out, my C1. So I did stop in the middle and go back and refill it, just to make sure that I was going to be able to have enough to color with. Now, the truck is completely colored, but the taillights and the tires are, well, I shouldn't say, the windows, the taillights and the tires are the only thing that I'm actually going to use a couple of color blends for, which here, I'm coloring the tires black. I'm, leaving a little bit of a highlight in the center to help give them a more round appearance. And then the tailgates, I'm adding the shadows kind of to the bottom, and the highlight is going to be in the center. And you'll see that here momentarily. And this is going to, again, help them give a more round appearance, but it's going to help them give a kind of lighter look by putting that lighter color in the center. It's going to give them a little bit more of a glow. And then we're going to do the windows later on, because at this point, I wasn't entirely sure what I was going to do for my background. So now I'm going to go in, I'm going to use those same cool grays. For the most part, I am using a C1, a C3, and a C5. The only part I used the C7 on was on the truck, and it's just because we had, multiple layers. But basically, I'm going to go in and I'm going to shade these with my grays only. So using what I know, which is any point where 2 points meet is going to have shadows. Any point where 2 points lay on top of each other is going to have shadows. And then I'm going to use some other kinds of shadows for shaping. And this is a really great way to practice. So here for these banners, like you can see I'm flicking out from the centered. That's where it's gathered. But then see where it's kind of coming in, like it's dipping in. I'm just going to add a triangle, just a little triangle of my C5. And you can see just with doing that, not even blending anything out, it already starts to look as if it is folded, like a rosette would be for like a banner. And so with my C3, I'm just going to go over top of that and extend it out. And then I also extended out that center. So in doing that, in just adding those little triangles and extending them up, you can see how much dimension we were able to achieve, which is fantastic. Now, the other one is a rounder one. It doesn't have the triangles. So again, you could see that, in the live, but basically you did a center highlight, so I added shadows from the left to the right. But with that, we want to use the same technique that we're going to use for the balloons, which is anytime that you're coloring something that is a shape, like how balloons are round, you want to follow that shape. So here, when I'm adding my darkest shading, I'm leaving a kind of a halo around the balloon of the lightest portion, which for me is just white or a C1. But that's going to be our reflective light. So I'm taking the shadows up, but I'm rounding those strokes. And here I'm just going to show you a couple of them. It doesn't change. That roundness doesn't change whether you have a pattern or you have a plain balloon. You can just go with the grays right up, kind of the left and the right with the darkest color, blend over that with your midtone, and then complete that circle or oval with the C1, leaving again that border of white around the edge. And what this does is it helps us to see where the shadows need to go and how to create that dimension without having to worry about, like I said, the other extra things. This is just to help us get some practice with our shading. This is also a great way if you don't have a lot of colors of markers, whatever brand you're using. If you don't have a wide variety and you're trying to get the most bang for your buck, which you guys know I am a cheap chicken, so I am here for that. This is another way that you can get dimension without having to have 3 color blends for every color family. So, the other thing that's nice about this particular technique is it can be very, very challenging when you're coloring a pattern. So like in the balloons, there's stars, there's stripes. It can be very difficult to get good shading on something that has a pattern because you have to color around those objects. So we need to color around the stars. We need to color around the stripes. And so it can be hard to kind of match up those shadows. By doing this technique and shading with those gray colors, then you don't have to worry about it because you can color right over those stars and it's not going to matter. Same thing with the stripes because the shading is on the whole object, not just in each individual color. I hope that makes sense. So for these presents, the ones in the back had darker shading, than the ones in the front. The ones that are closest to the tailgate, the bottoms of them will have shading because again, it's something's in front of them. So that'll be casting a shadow as well. But I made the comment when we were doing the live on Wednesday, like this would look super cool as like an old timey, like black and white photograph. And in I can't remember the name of it, the fall pickup add-on, they have a little puppy dog like with a bandana, and I just think that would be so cute with like the little bunting banners and this little dog hanging out the back and like doing it all in black and white. I think would be a very, very cool vintage kind of look. So I may try to do that maybe one year for like my dad or something like that. So now, because I don't want these to be black and white, we're not doing an old-timey photo. We're going to do some color glazing. And that's just kind of the nickname that I have come up for when I color things. And then I go back over them with another color. In this case, the going back over it with another color is the actual color. But I would still color it, call it color glazing. If I colored a flower pink and I went over top of it with a purple, it would still be glazing that color or changing that hue. In this case, we're just also adding color. So when I picked out my original rainbow, I went with an R35, a YR04, a Y08, a YG03, a B04, and a B24. The B04 ended up being too dark, so I switched it to a B02. Now, I am not going to be using these to blend in with each other for the most part. The only time that I really needed them to work together was on this bow, and I didn't even end up using it. So you don't have to stress so much about that. I basically picked what I picked so that they would be all kind of in the same saturation level. I wasn't going to have one color that was, too deep versus one color that was really bright. So now that we have, the shading, I can just go into one of these balloons with one color, add that down, and it's going to continue to hold that shading that we put in. Now, just like with anything else, if you are putting lighter colors over darker colors because they're alcohol markers and they blend in the fibers of the paper, a lighter color can bleach out a darker color. So that's one of the things that we do need to be aware of when we're picking what colors to go over top of them. So you don't want to, shade it with grays that are like a C1, 3, and 5, and then go in there and color your balloon like an RV 69. Like that's your shading is going to be obliterated because the tone is too, like the shade is just too dark. So be conscientious of that when you're picking your colors for your grays or for what you're going to color glaze with. If you want to use darker colors, then use darker shading colors. That's all. It will still work. The other thing to keep in mind is some colors are cool and some colors are warm. And so I chose to use cool grays because I felt like that was going to work for the majority of the colors I was using. But you can tell with like the yellow and the orange that I probably would have been better off with a warmer gray in order for my shading to look a little bit more natural. I don't really sweat that too much because it's all part of a, entire picture, but you could either split them. You could use cool grays for the cool colors, warm grays for the warm colors, or you could go warm grays if you feel like you're going to have more of those. Or like I said, Copic has the neutral and the toner, so that maybe that wouldn't be as problematic. I don't own either one of those sets. I only own the cool and the warm. So, yeah, so that's just that. What did we talk about? What did we talk about in our last video? Oh, why am I doing this video? Let's talk about that. So we over at Honeybee have a release that is up and coming. Very exciting about that. It is next Friday, June 27th, and we'll go live that evening. We'll take a look at the new release, and then after that live, the release will be live in the store for you guys to shop and purchase those things. So you guys know that I'm kind of new to this gig and I have a lot on my plate right now. So since Kelly Cahoot retired, I took over doing the lives and doing the, project spotlights, blog hops, all of that jazz, which I am totally loving. And I love being able to do the lives and connect with you guys. But I'm still getting the swing of things, right? This is only the second release that I've done this for. So, Lisa, this is so funny. Like, talk about like just crossing communication. Lisa sent me a message and she was like, hey, make sure, you're doing, sneak peeks, of the new products on your lives. And I'm like, yes, I love showing people new stuff. Awesome. I will absolutely do, a sneak peek. So like I picked out what I was doing with the truck because I had asked you guys what you wanted to see, and patriotic was one of the ones that came up, and I thought, well, this is really fun. I'll use that Americana set with the truck because it's been a while since I've used that. And so I picked that out. We go through our whole, coloring thing. And then at the end, I do my little sneaky peek, which if you choose to go back and watch the live, I will link it in the YouTube description below. If you choose to go back and watch the live, you will catch that sneak. And after the thing is done, like, Lisa is great. She's wonderful. She always checks in with me and is very encouraging. Like, hey, it went great. You did a great job. But anyway, so she sent me a message and she was like, you were supposed to like, the sneak peek was supposed to be you making a project with what you were doing, not you doing something else and then just showing the product. So, lesson learned, right? Next time I'll know. But I did not want to do a live and then do something different and then come back to this. So I figured I would use my video today to just go ahead and, put it all together. Originally, I was thinking about doing, and we talked about it a little bit on the live, like doing a fireworks background, like a night scene, which I think would be really, really fun because in that Americana set, they have a lot of fireworks. But I think that we can do that with or without the truck. Like, I think we could use those for that technique anyway. So I wasn't sure what I was going to do with them. What I ended up deciding to do with them was to do some shaped cards, which, because I think is super fun. And even adults like to get fun, interactive, little shape cards, or, shaker cards, or ones that you can light up, or they, what's that one that's really cool? You like blow on it and it blows the candles out. So I thought that would be a fun way to kind of bring it all together. And really in that live, we finished all of the coloring. So the only thing that would be needed to finish it out would be just putting the card together. I didn't do anything else besides that. So that's why I decided to do the birthday one, so we could see the technique again, maybe in a little bit more of a concise way, in case you're a person who doesn't do lives, which I totally get. They can be time consuming. But if you are a person who watches the lives and you just wanted to see how the card came together, you would be able to pop over here and just check it out. So with that said, since we have the release next week, my Monday night premiere will be some new product, as well as my Wednesday live. So if you're excited to see what's up and coming, make sure that you are checking those out. Here, this is where, remember I had said that, if you lose your darkness, just like with your colors, you can go back in with your grays. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm going back in with that C5 and just kind of darkening up those little triangles, because I felt like I lost a little bit of my dimension in my little, what are we calling these? Bunting, banners. What did I call them before? Like rosettes. But they aren't. It's only like a half a rosette. Anyway, you get the point. You can go back in and add darker shadows. So now you have the patriotic on the right and then the rainbow on the left. And we're going to go through and we are going to die cut all of these pieces parts with their matching dies, which are super easy to find. The truck I chose just to cut out the full body, but there are additional ones for the tailgate outside and the inside of the tailgate. There's also those. And I think there's one for, or maybe it's just the outside of the tailgate and the license plate. So here is how we're going to make it a shaped card. This is a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. I am going to cut it to be 5.5 by 8.5. And then I'm going to score it at the 4.25 mark. So basically what we're doing is we are making a A2 size landscape card. And then I put it in my Spellbinders trimmer because it has the scoring one in there already. I usually can use it with the blade as well, but I lost it and I have not replaced it yet. So that's my fault. So then I'm going to fold it over. I'm going to use my Teflon bone folder to make sure that that is all lined up and it is good. And then this is how we're going to create that shaped card with the hinge. And you have to do it in landscape, because if you try to do it in portrait, the truck is just a little bit too big. So I'm lining my wheels up down at the bottom, and you can see when I lift it up, there's just this little bit of a gap at the top, which means it's not going to cut through that top hinge. So when I run this through my die cutting machine, it's going to die cut all the parts of the truck except for that tippy top, which is going to create the hinge for our shaped card. So we'll open up nicely. We'd be able to stamp a sentiment in there, or, do some additional decorations if you're into that. And, you would be good to go. For the sentiment, it's pretty obvious they're celebration cards with the balloons and the, the banners and all of that stuff. So I chose the Sassy Mini Messages Sassy Birthday, which I love. I think is great. And then I also pulled out the sentiment banners and the mini, what is it called? Mini messages. Hold on. I'll figure it out. Mini Messages banners. So I stamped them in white, heat embossed them in white, heat embossed them on black. And so I did one that says "Hooray, it's your birthday," and one that says "Let's celebrate." In this particular pack of They have some that have a flat edge and a banner edge, and then they have some that are just like flat rectangles. And then in the sentiment banners, they have banners on both sides. I didn't end up using that one. I ended up keeping them nice and small. But now we're almost to getting everything together. I am going to stamp the license plate. These smaller stamps is something that I still prefer to do with an acrylic block. I know that sounds crazy, but I don't use my MISTI for this. I'm much more comfortable using just a clear acrylic block and doing them old school so that I can get the placement exactly where I want. I stamped both of them to say enjoy. There are a lot of other options on there, but since they're celebrations, I figured enjoy was good for either the 4th of July or a birthday. Here is where we're using that blue combination. I used a B00, a B01, a B00, and I think it's either the B quadruple zero or the BG quadruple zero. They're so close together, it's almost like it doesn't even matter which one that you use. And I just kind of like did it at an angle and left some white in there as if there was maybe some like blue sky kind of peeking through the windows. But for the most part, you aren't even going to see any of that. So I'm going to go ahead and glue these down flat to my card bases. And then I'm going to start building up my accessories. They were pretty easy to come together. And you can, like, if it bothers you with the balloons hanging over, if it bothers you that you can see, like, the colors, you could always put a backer on that as well. I just don't feel like it's necessary. I don't think anybody's going to flip my card over and be like, but I can see that you colored that. Well, if you had to flip it over to see that I colored that, you maybe should pay better attention to the front of the card. So anyway, I think the last time we talked about, what did we talk about? We talked about Father's Day, I think. So we had a good Father's Day despite all of my present issues that we had. It cleared out. It was supposed to be rainy, and it did rain that morning, but it cleared out that afternoon, which was good because our game plan was to grill everything. Had a super hard moment when it came. My family makes this thing called dirt. Okay, it's not like actual dirt. It's crushed Oreos and vanilla pudding with cream cheese and milk, and there's something else in there. I'm missing it. But anyway, and then you layer it like a trifle. And we have made that for years. And then for a while, my mom didn't make it. And then after Nathan was born, she made it one time, and it was like his favorite dessert. So anytime that he was with us for the holidays, because unfortunately with a blended family, we don't get him for every holiday. If he was with us for like the holiday that we were having a cookout, Mom would always make it. So we had a cookout for Father's Day, and I had to make the dirt because my mom is not here to do it. And so I did make it, and my son was very grateful. No shame whatsoever. I cried through the whole thing. But I'm also, like, at the same time, I'm very grateful for the time that I spent with my mom in the kitchen, because it means that I do know how to make all those things. Like, I didn't have to look up a recipe. I didn't have to figure out what was supposed to be in it. Like, I was blessed enough to spend enough time with her in the kitchen that I knew I knew the recipe without having to look it up, which will tell you a good amount of time that my mother and I spent in the kitchen together. Which is a lot of times, where I shouldn't say where I miss her the most, because I miss her all the time, but you get the thing. So anyway, we did make it through, which was good. We finally did get our pool open, even though Ohio has been having rough weather. It rained for like 3 to 5 days straight. It just felt like it was rain. But Jelly Bean and I did get to go swimming today, so that was exciting. We both enjoyed that very much. So hopefully maybe summer will now get into full swing. I would appreciate it. So once they're all put together, you guys know I love a white gel pen moment. I go in there, I add all my highlights and add some little extra details. to pretty much everything. Nothing gets unscathed from the white gel pen. And then to give the balloons and banners and stuff just a little bit more character, I went in with some glossy accents, and I did 3 balloons in each bunch. And then I also did the stars on the flag. And then I went in with some Stardust stickles because you guys know... Oh, I did the taillights too. Forgot about that. I did the glitters on the stars that were left on one of the balloons. And then the other 3 I did in glitters. And, of course, added them to all the accessories that I could. And then this is it. This is both of the cards. I think they're super cute. You obviously could decorate this for any kind of celebration holiday. But I love the way that they came out, and I will just put them in my stash for, people who are extra special, get, special birthday cards from me. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope that you will give the gray shading a try. If you have any questions, please let me know. And if you're interested in that live link, I will link it below on YouTube. Thank you again, and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye.